people, this is James from Head Showered Shaved. How's everyone doing today? Good? Good. Nice to hear it. Today is Friday. The sun is shining. At the end of the week, it's been a long week at work, so I'm really looking forward to just enjoying the weekend. And we've got a bit of a mini heat wave here in southern England, so life couldn't be better. So I thought, what better time than to celebrate and follow on from the journey that I've been doing in the last couple of vlogs that I've done for you guys. Just a very quick recap. So we started off with the first shave that I ever did, my first head shave, and looked at the equipment that I used for that. And then we looked at where I got my first real upgrade, and that was through the feather blades, incredibly sharp. And then my next real upgrade, as I was continuing with my head shaving journey, is probably the greatest find I've ever had in all of my experimentation with the wet shaving and safety razors in particular. I'm going to start off with a saying, and this saying is awesome. I heard it years ago and I've just never forgotten it. It's really resonated with me. And the Aboriginals of Australia have a saying, and it says that if you've got one eye on your future and one eye on your past, then you're half blind. And if you have two eyes on your future, then you're fully blind. And I love that. You know, that is, look to the past for answers, because problems have been solved before. If you want to know how to do something, look at how it's been done well. And I think the same applies to shaving. And that's why I really like this traditional method of shaving. And I think that's why there's a bit of a movement at the moment for fellas like you and me to get back to it and to do it properly. And to not cut corners and speed it up, but to actually take the time to groom ourselves properly. I think we owe it to ourselves, and it feels fucking great to do it. Okay, apologies for the expletives there. I'm getting a bit overexcited. Anyways, okay, so I wanted to upgrade. I had my Merkur 23 long handle and another couple of mild razors, but I was using mild razors and I was using sharp blades. And the combination was great, really smooth, really trustworthy. But where do I go from here? Because there's more to come. I was gently making my way up the aggression scale when it comes to the equipment and hardware. So I went onto a really good forum which I recommend, called Badger and Blade. And I popped on there, said hi, introduced myself to the new membership, said, you know, I'm new to this lark, blah, blah, blah. And I said that this is where I am right now, and I don't quite know what my next move should be. Any recommendations? And most of the recommendations that I got back were all around going vintage. So this is not buying a old style of razor, but actually buying a razor that is old, an actual vintage classic. And there's a few companies that have made vintage classics, but the main one is Gillette. So Gillette they're obviously the biggest brand in shaving. They need no introduction, but back in the day, these guys made some awesome quality stuff. Not the kind of stuff that you throw away or chuck away. Yes, the blades you need to replace and renew as you go. But from an actual razor perspective, they made some really good quality stuff. And it wasn't expensive to buy either, because a lot of the profit they were making was through the renewable blades. So the recommendation that really struck me, and the one that was most common, was the Gillette Pre War Tech fat handle. Now, the Gillette Tech is a range of vintage razors. They were made from the 1930s right through to the 1970s, actually. So they were going strong for about 40 years. It was a particular style of razor that they did, which had numerous variations to it on essentially the same kind of design theme. Google them and you'll see what I mean. But the particular razor that people were drawing me to was this pre-war edition. And this was made between the years of 1938 and 1945. So right around World War II. Now at the time, this is how gents were shaving. This was the type of kit that they were using. So millions of these things were made in the USA particularly, but also over here in the UK. So they were so well made, and they were obviously made of various metals. So they've stood the test of time, and they're still available now. You can find them at car boot sales. You can find them in vintage shops. You might have a granddad still alive now that has one in his collection. If you do, check it out. Have a look in your loft. If there's any of sort of granddad's old bits knocking about, you might find one. But yeah, so I mean, I took the plunge and I went, do you know what? I love it. I'm doing this traditional style. Yes, I bought some new ones and they're brilliant, but actually I'm going to buy some actual vintage classics here. And I took the plunge and I bought what I can only describe as my best razor, and I love it. And each time I use it, it's like a special occasion. And today is one of those days. So I'd like to share that with you and show it to you. I bought this on a site called Etsy, and the supplier was Backroad Gold, which is a company that accumulates, basically they do replating of metal, but they've got a bit of a sideline where they're acquiring vintage razors from around the US, and they're replating them in various metals so that they're in basically new condition, which is just awesome. And the one I bought is this baby here. Look at it, gold plated, 24 karat gold. She's an absolute beauty. Look at the workmanship in that. Lovely. As you can see, fat handle and a short handle. And this head, this is where the tech part really comes from. So that style was something that by and large stuck around for nearly 40 years, people. I mean, talk about stand the test of time. This in particular one is pre-war, like I've said. And the distinguishing mark for this, because around this time Gillette didn't date stamp their razors, is a little telltale sign, and that is, if you can see these flow holes, they're ever so slightly triangular, and that is the clue that this is the pre-war edition. After the war they weren't triangular anymore, they were sort of more rectangular really, but just that subtle little hint is the giveaway that this is the pre-war tech version. And I love the profile of the head because it's really thin. I mean, look at that form. So for getting round places like your ears and so forth, it's just fantastic. Really good. Some of the shavers you get are still brilliant, but they have a slightly bigger head and it can be a little bit more kind of awkward, particularly with a head, not so much with a face. But this going round the awkward parts is absolutely amazing, and I love it. It's my absolute pride and joy. It is a work of art. This, people, is 80 years old. This has probably done 1,000 shaves. Recently, we've just had the anniversary of the D-Day landings, which is awesome. I mean, doesn't need an introduction, man. And there's a lot of people from all over the world, from all religions, skin colour and creed to, laid down their lives for us to have the life that we lead today. And I just find that awesome. Self-sacrifice. These boys and girls, really epitomise what brave is. And this is a razor that was manufactured and was used by people like that around that time. And I just love it. It's just a piece of history in my hand. I'm going on a bit too much now, so I'm going to have to speed up, but I really wanted to give this a nice introduction. It's an amazing razor, and if you start building your collection and you're following a similar journey to me, then you've got to go vintage and just get some of them. They're not that expensive because there's so many still around and they're still in really good condition. They just don't cost that much. So check them out because they are brilliant. And this in particular, this one, the Gillette Pre War Tech fat handle, was the advice predominantly I was given as my upgrade from my mild razor. And it's exactly that. It is to be respected. It's still mild, but it's to be respected. It just exposes a little bit more of that blade so that you get that more aggressive shave, and you've got to be a little bit more careful, and I love it. Whenever I use this, I get a super super smooth shave. And I love it. And I'm a bit of a brand idiot, which I explained in the last video that I did, that because it's a Gillette, I like to use Gillette blades with it as well. I do have some Gillette vintage blades from around the same time, but I haven't come around to using them yet. I will eventually, but I just, you know, at some point they're going to run out, aren't they? So I just think, no, I'll put them to one side. So I do use a modern Gillette razor, but at least it's a Gillette and effectively manufactured to the same standards as they would have done. So I'm going to load this up with a Gillette Silver Blue. This isn't as sharp as a feather and is sharper than a Derby. So it sits kind of somewhere in between, but is an amazing, amazing blade. Really, really good stuff. They're actually not that cheap for us to buy here in England. You can effectively buy a feather for the same price, but they are a tremendously good blade, and they do last well. I get, you know, a good 3 or 4 head shaves out of these, no problem, and they are super sharp, more than sharp enough, really good, come highly recommended. So I'm going to keep in line with the tradition of the vintage razor, and I'm going to go with a shave cream by Taylors of Old Bond Street. These guys do amazing luxury shaving products. I've spoken about them before, but this particular, oh, I love it. This particular shaving cream is sandalwood, so it's got that really classic sandalwood smell that just evokes, you know, thoughts of, you know, granddads and the 1940s and things like that. So really cool. I'm going to use a modern brush, which probably flies against the grain a bit from tradition, but it's just a brush that I love. And whenever I use the Taylor of Old Bond Street creams, I use this because the lather I get on it is absolutely phenomenal. It's premium, real luxury stuff. So this is a Yaki, a very inexpensive, it's a 26mm knot. This is the Timberwolf color, which is a beautiful blue. Absolutely adore this brush. So I'm going to be using that as synthetic. So I don't need to keep it submersed in water. I can just dip it and go, which is one of the advantages of synthetics. And to follow up, oh yeah, another treat. And it's another product that's really stood the test of time. I've had a few aftershaves that have been sandalwood based. And they've been good, you know, I've got some good stuff. But if there's one traditional aftershave that's sandalwood based, which has stood the test of time and is as amazing today as it was before, then it's Aramis. Now I promise you, this is an aftershave that you would have seen in your bathroom when you was a kid. Does that look familiar? Awesome, awesome stuff. This is one of the few classic aftershaves that still sells for the same price. And the reason being is it's awesome. Ah, that smell is unbelievable. I promise you guys, that might have been a product that your dad wore in the 70s or 60s. You could go back as far as the 50s for this thing. But I tell you now, other than Creed, which is a very expensive aftershave, my missus compliments me more when I wear this than any other thing. And I don't tell her what it is. She just goes, I can smell you. And it's that, baby. Awesome stuff. And I'll tell you what, talk about that for a bit of a product match. Love it, love it. Right, I'm going to get going, guys. There's going to be a few bits of fast forward, which is pretty much the norm now. But I'm going to get on and really enjoy this shave. And I hope you enjoy watching me enjoy it. Nice. Cool, here we are loaded up for the first lather. And this, as I always mention, well, I hope I do, is the most important lather. This is where you're preparing your skin for the shave. So it's really important that we get this bit right. Right, here we are. So we've loaded the blade. Always worth checking that the actual blade itself looks nice and even and centered and aligned, and that looks perfect. Let's go. First pass with the grain. Right, there we go, guys. That's pass number one. Absolutely awesome. Such a good feel. That combination. Really good stuff. Just be nice and light. When you hold the razor, you know, just a couple of fingers, it just needs to move across the surface. It doesn't need to be pressed down. That's why it's got the short handle, so that you're just using fingertips. You're just pulling along, and then that blade comes along the surface and just cuts, and it doesn't need the pressure. It just needs to come along because the sharpness and the angle and everything is taken care of. Okay, pass number two, across the grain. Right, third and final pass against the grain. I'm down to the boards here, so really careful now, because this is the bit where you might get some cuts. So just be nice and respectful. That feels absolutely amazing. That is so goddamn smooth. That is unbelievable. This aftershave is going to sting because that was a close shave, but that's okay. I like it. And that stuff in particular is incredibly soothing. So I'm looking forward to getting it on. And that's the Aramis I'm talking about. Do it, people. Gillette Tech Pre War Fat Handle. 80 years old and awesome. Get a bit of history in your hand, boys. Remember, look back in history and you'll learn how to do it properly. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. I'm home alone tonight, unfortunately. I'm going to smell awesome. And do you know what? Sometimes it's nice to smell good for yourself. Oh, what? Woo! Wow. Oh, there comes that wave of soothe after that initial sting and my... Oh, man, that smell is unreal. Aramis. Oh man, Aramis. Okay people, I've gone on long enough, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. If like me, you were going bald and thought, what shall I do with my hair? Shall I shave it? Don't even think about it. Get it done. Shave your head. You'll look good. You'll feel good. Every time I shave my head, I feel good and I look good. And you can too. So why don't you get on board? So this is James from Head Shower Shave signing out. Take care people and I'll see you on the next video.